Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time, and we greatly value that you've wanted to spend it with us for a little bit today. My name is Paul Hedgecock. I'm the general manager at Advanced Data, and we would like to talk with you about cybersecurity today. Our presenter will be Brian Scheewe, co-founder and CTO. And without further ado, I guess maybe just a couple business items. Again, you are muted and your cameras are off, and so we will give everybody some time to ask questions via chat at the end of the presentation. We are also recording the meeting, so you can share, and we'll be sending this out to our valued partners at the end of the morning here. Without further ado, let's turn some time over to Brian and talk about cybersecurity.
Great, thank you, and good morning, everyone. I wish I could see everyone. I can't, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that we can engage today. The reason that we're doing this today is because some nights I'm not sleeping very well, and to be honest, and the reason is because there is a gap in some cases that had been growing for a period of time, and we're stemming that gap now between what cybercrime and cyber criminals are doing versus just the posture that is currently in place with a lot of our clients. And so we have been very mindful of this, and we understand that you rely on us for security, and we take that very, very seriously. But the threat landscape is changing, and so we need to change with it. And so first I want to zoom way out and look global, and then we'll get local. And so here's global. And this is kind of shocking when you think about this, but worldwide cybercrime is now, I mean, this slide deck, that picture is a little old. It's now a $10.5 trillion business. And so just let that soak in. If cybercrime were a country, it would be the third largest GDP behind USA and China. And so when we think about just the massive amount of opportunity for cybercrime, it's scary to think about. And when we look at its growth on the right side here, we can see that it's growing very quickly, faster than the GDP of India, for example. And the scary part about this is attackers don't need deep skills anymore. Attackers can rent tools and rent services to leverage bad things. And because of this, there is a growing increase of just budgets to try to fight back against this. And so what's driving this? One, like I already mentioned, is that threat actors don't need to be cybersecurity gurus or Uber hackers anymore to get involved in the economy of cybercrime. There are marketplaces that they can go to, and they can buy off-the-shelf tools that will enable them to start hacking right away. And they don't have to, I mean, it's as easy as learning something, right? You go to a website and you sign up for a service. That's what they're doing. They're going to a website, they're signing up for a cybercrime service, and then they're getting into the risk of doing cyber business. The other thing that's causing this growth is because the cloud has become just part of our everyday work. So in the old days of IT, we had to worry about protecting what's inside a business. So it was a server perhaps, and maybe some workstations. Now, when we think about the landscape of IT that needs to be protected, there are cloud services. People are using Microsoft 365, or they're using Salesforce, or just name the business line application that now lives in the cloud. So now our data is spread out, and it becomes harder to secure that. And so that's one of the reasons why this spend worldwide is also growing. But the bottom line is this, that line is going up because it needs to get in line with the risk and the investment that cybercrime is making. So here's a real example. This happened last year, where this was an international company. Again, we're thinking very big right now, where they received an email that looked like it came from headquarters, and they requested a funds transfer. And so the account payable employee, they were cautious, like they should have been, and so they arranged for a video call with the CFO. The thing is when they got on that call, who they thought was with the CFO and coworkers, it was actually an AI deepfake that was pulled from publicly available meeting recordings. And so even when they were doing their due diligence to confirm before they made this transaction, the cyber criminals were one step ahead, and they were able to dupe this person into transferring money. And the damage here was $25 million in this case, which is just, I shudder to think about that. It was awful that that happened. So now we're going to zoom in just a little bit and let's look at nationwide. So here in the US, the stakes are high because of the opportunity for cyber criminals. And so in 2024, there were 16 billion reported losses, which is a third increase over the year before. And when we see small businesses make up 44% of the economy, and cyber criminals are aware of this, and they go after small businesses because they know that the defenses there tend to be thinner. And so there's real opportunity there. So again, another real world example is an organization called Volt Typhoon. They are a state-sponsored Chinese hacking company, and they are quietly burrowing into the US infrastructure. And what's different about this is typically organized crime, they will get in to steal something. In this case, because it's tied to the Chinese government, they're not going in to steal things necessarily. What they're doing is they're laying cyber landmines, so to speak. They're preparing for an opportunity that in the event that they need to do something to disrupt the American economy, they could do this. And so the NSA, the FBI, they're all fighting against this. And it even comes down to regional defenders to be aware of this. So this is something that's just happening in the background that many people are not aware of. So continue to zoom even closer. Let's get into Western North Carolina. So this article is dated June 16th. So just a little over 2 months ago, it looks like, under 2 months ago. And here we have Asheville Associates, who is a local business that many of us are probably aware of, but they had a breach, and their patient records were exfiltrated. And so this is something that affects even our neighbors here in Asheville. Another one that happened earlier this year was Asheville City Schools. That this was actually a bigger breach that occurred with Power School. This is a program that Asheville City Schools and other area schools use, but this headline is specific to Asheville City Schools, that it was breached, and so student and family information was leaked as a result of this. So this is something that we may think that, oh, it's something that's happening out there in the world, but it's happening in our neighborhoods. And so I like this meme because I think sometimes it can capture our mindset that we believe our defenses are sleek and fast and we're ready to outrun any threat. But in reality, when we lay the facts against a modern attacker, that we are actually slower and more vulnerable than we thought. Now it doesn't mean that there's doom and gloom. There's good news. We can work out this little hound and become a cheetah, but it's going to take some work. The other thing I'd like to point out is that if we were to go car shopping in just, 40 years ago, we would notice that there's a vast difference in safety features of a car back then compared to a car today, right? The cars of yesteryear, if you were lucky, had a seatbelt, and then rear view mirrors were added, right? But today, there is a long list of safety features that we don't even think about until an accident happens. And when that accident does happen, we're really grateful that we have all those safety features. And so I'd liken that to today. So for our flat fee IT clients, the things that we're already doing for you, security is a part of it. Right? We have data backups. We're doing endpoint protection. We're managing your firewalls and your VPNs. We're protecting email. We're doing incident response, strategic support. So we're doing these things. However, we need to evolve. And so we have introduced a program called CyberWatch that adds additional layers of protection that will address this gap that I mentioned earlier, where now we need to have 24/7 monitoring with a SOC. So SOC, you'll hear us throw that term around. That means a Security Operations Center. What that is that's a program where we have real people looking at data in real time, all the time, to watch for threats. There's vulnerability scanning. There is cloud identity, there's SIM, this security information and event management. What that means is it's a way for us to look at all the events that are happening in an environment. And then we use tools like AI to bubble up to the surface something that looks out of place. We also have security awareness training where we help to train your staff on threats that they may be vulnerable to. Phishing simulations, penetration testing, dark web monitoring. And so we have all these additional layers that we have created to help close the gap and fight against cybercrime. And so I want to now go into a real life example. This happened to a business here in Western North Carolina where we implemented CyberWatch. And this was earlier in the spring, and not even a month into us implementing all of the tools and the services, about 1 a.m. one weeknight, our SOC, the Security Operations Center, caught unusual activity. There was an IP address that was attempting to sweep through the network and try to log in to anything that it could find. And within 5 minutes, analysts confirmed that this traffic, this kind of outlier of behavior was malicious. And so just a few minutes after that, what they did was they isolated every workstation and every server in the environment. And when we do that, when we isolate something, what it means is it can't communicate to other devices or to the outside world. It really locks it down. And so that happened around 1:15 a.m. And what did that mean? Well, it meant when the client woke up and we were able to inform them, hey, there was an incident, we locked it down, that they did have some inconvenience because their systems were offline, but it was offline on purpose because we had locked everything down. So once we were able to communicate with the client, they rubbed the sleep out of their eyes, and we were able to explain what we found. Then we were able to slowly and methodically start to bring things back online as we deemed that they were safe. And so the end result was by late morning, they were back up and running. But the good news is there was no data exfiltration, there was no ransom demand, there was no embarrassing, notification letter that they had to send to any clients. That it really saved the day. And now this client is a huge champion of CyberWatch. And for us, it really instilled confidence in our team and in our services that, hey, this is working and this will fight against real threat actors that are trying to do bad things. So I guess what we want to say is we've already acted. We even debated creating another company because there were so many requirements and compliance and processes that we needed to implement. There was a lot of things that we had to do. But ultimately, as our organization matured and as we started to put everything in place that we needed, our company gained an additional S in our business designation. We're known as an MSP, a managed service provider. And that additional S, MSSP, is a managed security service provider. And so as a part of all this work that we did, our security practices and posture ourselves has really improved and increased. And it affects all of the day-to-day services that we're already offering you. But there is a coming change and a deadline. The new SOC has been running within our flat fee IT client environments for a few months. And we have mounting evidence that this is working. And so we want to talk to you further about these findings and where it makes sense to make this service part of a permanent fixture in your organization. And so we don't just want to do this, we want to have a conversation with you first about this, because we appreciate and we respect all of our clients, and we don't just want to arbitrarily say, hey, the stack needs to be put in place. We want to start a conversation. And so really what the purpose of this meeting to do today is to invite you to close the gap with us, to set up a meeting, set up a time where we can go over these findings for your organization specifically, and then we can determine is there something missing that we don't see? Is there a gap in our visibility that we need to be aware of? And so with that, Paul, I'll turn the time over to you. If there's any questions or anything else that I missed, feel free to fill in for me. And you're muted, by the way.
I am. Thank you. Brian,
Yep.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I don't have anything to add, but we do want to, first of all, invite you to schedule a meeting so that we can share. As Brian mentioned, we've been taking action, and so we have data to share with you. We have information about what the risks really are, and we'd like to have that conversation. So if you scan this QR code, you'll be able to schedule a consultation with our team. And we'd like to open the floor for people to ask questions about CyberWatch and about anything that Brian presented today. If you have a question, go ahead and open up the chat panel and then type it in there, and we can then begin to answer questions as they come up. Okay. It looks like one question we have here. One question is, can you tell us more about the training? And I assume the training means the security awareness training. Yes. Okay. Brian, tell us more about the security awareness training.
Absolutely. So the security awareness training program that we have in place covers I guess it's a portal that allows staff to be able to engage in cybersecurity training. And ideally, where it starts is with the initial HR engagement, right? When we onboard a new employee, a new staff member, that we have them go through, as a part of that onboarding, some cybersecurity awareness so that they understand what are things that I can do to help keep our team safe. In addition to that, besides that, there's also a regular cadence that we can put people on where we can do a quarterly or a yearly refresh of cybersecurity training. And then it brings a report where everybody can see this. The other thing that our cybersecurity training introduces is phishing simulations. So a phishing simulation is when we purposely send phishing or malicious email to staff in order to see, does anyone actually click the link? Does anyone follow or go through and they miss maybe the cues, the visual cues or some other cue? Did they click it? And if they do click it, then it automatically enrolls them in a training specific to that phishing campaign to help them not fall for that trap again. And anything else to add to that, Paul?
Yeah. Well, I would just add two things. One is that in most cases, the greatest vulnerability to your organization is an untrained employee. And so being able to train everybody is a critical element of keeping safe. Also, for anybody who has any kind of regulatory requirements that they're following, oftentimes security awareness training is a requirement to meet those qualifications. So it's a great question and one that is very relevant, and it is part of the CyberWatch package. Thank you.
I see another question here. How does this stop people from sending emails asking money to be transferred and then being able to fake that they are a CEO? Oh yes, this is so common. We see this a lot. And it's a combination of things. No technical control can be 100% foolproof. I guess I want to make sure that we all understand that we can put in all sorts of technical controls, but threat actors are always evolving to work around technical controls. And so it comes down to a combination of technical controls and technical policies or administrative controls. And so in the case of someone sending emails and asking for money, we're going to have systems in place that do their very best to prevent spoofing of email addresses. And we even just this last week, we found a new gap in Microsoft 365 that we're closing the gap like this week. We have security analysts working on this right now to close this spoofing gap that was revealed just this week that we found. But we pair that with policy. And that's one of the things that our virtual chief information security officers, these are people that are trained in security and trained in business, that they can talk to your leaders about, is about creating policies so that these things don't happen. So for example, the policy would be never use email as a method for changing account information, that there needs to be additional conversations. Now it gets harder when considering the story I shared earlier, where, hey, a Zoom call now should be called into question. Like, is it really the CEO that I'm speaking to or not? And so those are the sorts of things that we have to navigate and become ever more vigilant on.
Awesome. Tammy also asked a question about estimated costs, and I wanted to share with everybody that the reality is every situation is just a little bit unique. We will say that for our existing flat fee clients, the cost is really it's not significant. It's something that we can discuss and something that we want to right size. As Brian mentioned, we have too much respect to arbitrarily impose things. But that's something that we can discuss as we determine what your needs are and which risk tolerance you wish to employ. Because, as Brian mentioned, nobody can be 100% secure, and there may be times where a risk is worth taking. We want to have clarity on what those risks are. Brian, do you see Elizabeth's question about law enforcement?
Do you see any law enforcement body working to do anything to reduce the size of this industry, at least the illegal and predatory components? Absolutely. I guess the fight against cybercrime is a combined effort of just security professionals that are in the private space, right? Our team is part of that force, and it's working in harmony with the FBI, with local law enforcement, to fight against these things. Because the fact of the matter is that most of these crimes are traversing international borders, and that's where it gets very difficult. And so that's why having a relationship with the regional FBI office is helpful, because then it creates a bridge between the private crime fighters and the public crime fighters. It's a challenge. That's all I can say. Because it's an ever evolving thing, and it's growing, and it's very lucrative for criminals to do this. So I wish that there was like this generalized program where everyone could be plugged in, but it's really complicated, because when you think about it, private businesses have their own space, and the government has their own space, and everybody is vulnerable, and everybody's trying to fight against it. And so it takes just harmonized action and cooperation between them. And so whenever I see something in the news like what I shared earlier, I guess I never celebrate. Like, I hope nobody would, but it's always heart-wrenching for us to see when somebody gets taken advantage of, regardless of who they are. And so we feel like it's part of our job as a community to fight against that. Sorry for the long answer there, but.
Yeah, Angela has a great question about two-factor authentication.
Oh yes, so not every employee has a town-issued cell phone. We cannot mandate that every employee use their personal cell phone to set up two-factor. How are you handling this? This is a great question. So two-factor authentication it's just so mandatory these days, right? To be able to have username, password, and something that you have, or something that you are, right? That's really what it makes another factor of authentication. And most multi-factor authentication does leverage an app on a mobile phone, but it doesn't have to. We can issue low-cost, they're just little keys that you can put on your wallet, and they're code generators. And so you may have seen those in the 90s. I remember my dad had one on his keychain. He worked in the financial industry, and so he had one of those. Those still exist, and we can still use those for multi-factor authentication. So that way it verifies that they have something, and then it'll just rotate a key. And so we can issue that to staff instead of putting something on their own phone.
Yeah. And Angela, you're correct. It is complicated when people are managing their own Microsoft accounts, and there are solutions for all of these challenges. Um, so this is where the virtual chief information security officer comes into play, because they're the ones that can introduce these solutions and navigate these challenges as a partner with you, leveraging the expertise that we have at Advanced Data. I think there's one more question that we have, and the question is can a business tell if they've already had a breach or if they're on a dark web? Brian, how would you respond to that question?
Absolutely. There is, through our dark web monitoring tools, we can absolutely see what is out there on the cybercrime marketplace, because it is a marketplace. It's really scary. They're very organized in a way that maybe we're just not aware of. For example, someone that steals account credentials isn't likely the one that will leverage those account credentials to do bad things. They're probably going to sell those credentials to somebody else because they don't have the risk appetite to take that on. And so they'll just sell it. And it's easy to do that in a dark web. And so we do have tools that will monitor the dark web for our email addresses and our domains and other company intellectual property to see if it's there for sale. And then that is a huge, obviously it's a trailing indicator, but it's an indicator that, hey, something has happened. Also, the SOC, our Security Operations Center, once we deploy those agents, those SOC agents to all of our endpoints, it will reveal indicators of compromise to the team to determine if something is in the environment already. So those are the two things that we have in place to help answer that question.
And I'll also mention that, as Brian mentioned, we do have those tools, and we maybe as a way of wrapping up our discussion, these are the tools we will share with you, and these are some of the information that we have to present when we meet to discuss your cybersecurity posture. So we look forward to having that conversation and engaging with you, and helping you understand what is available and what's out there that could become a threat to your organization or your business. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us. We are about out of our meeting time. Brian, any last thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Just thank you for your time today, and we look forward to furthering the conversation with you.
Yes. Thank you very much. We'll be sending out recordings of this, and appreciate again your time, and hope everybody has a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.